Okay, I'll admit, when I hear about more of these handheld gaming PCs, I tend to kind of zone out a bit because I feel like I see these handhelds being introduced constantly. It's like every time I look on Twitter, I see a new one popping up from different companies. And a lot of times it's in sort of the handheld emulation scene. But even with companies like Ayaneo, it to me looks like they come out with one every single month, or at least announce one. So they've kind of been blending together for me recently. But I will say a concept that I saw pop up online a week or so ago is a very intriguing thing to see, and I kind of hope it comes to fruition. So I figured we would go over it here today and see what everyone else thinks. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here to the Spawnwave Plus channel. So let's head over here. This was posted up, I saw, by The Verge, and they were citing Lilliputings's Brad Linder, and this is apparently from a quote-unquote leak, although they even admit that it's an attempt to plant a leak. And yeah, I could see this being a way for them to just kind of gauge interest before they start production, as in, hey, would you guys like to see basically our take on a 3DS? And this would definitely be a 3DS that's a bit overkill when it comes to its abilities compared to the system Nintendo released back in 2011. This one would apparently have a Ryzen 7 7840U, which is in their flagship handhelds now, I believe. Although again, this is constantly changing as they release new handhelds like every other month or something. But the 7840U is certainly strong enough for basically all emulation across the board. There are videos kind of showcasing it with some of the more recent devices from Ayaneo, and I did notice that 3DS in particular plays pretty well. I was seeing 60 frames per second on it, and the thing that's so intriguing about this, obviously, it has two screens, so it would be perfect for that. There are videos out there that kind of showcase the dual screen setup for some of these phones that are like foldable. When you open it up, it's one large screen, but there's an obvious crease where it folds, so you can sort of see it being two screens. And people have been using that for emulation, and it's worked extremely well, actually. But I mean, are you going to pick something like that up specifically for that? Because unfortunately, it'll fall short in other categories when it comes to just everyday use and stuff. In this case, you'd be buying the Ayaneo Flip, I assume, with the idea of playing DS or 3DS games through emulation. So I do wonder how necessary that Ryzen 7 7840U would be if they're trying to keep the price within reason. Although I will say the 3DS has been climbing in price, so if this thing came out at $400 or $500, it'd be more expensive than obviously we're seeing with the 3DS now, but not by as much as you would think just a couple of years ago. And the pricing on a lot of these 3DS games are they're getting kind of out of hand. And let's be real, a lot of people now, I'm sure, seeing these prices, probably emulating them or using like R4 or Ace carts or whatever people are using now on the 3DS. But the layout here, when it comes to the buttons and the sticks, I think is one of the biggest things they're looking for any kind of feedback on, kind of setting up this layout. It does appear they're trying to do a lot with it. Clearly, they want to have the dual stick setup. They're offset. Nice little D-pad down there, A, B, X, and Y, which they'll probably have to play around with where A and B is, depending on what the audience ends up saying. But I think like plus and minus, that's kind of in a weird spot there. The hinge, I think, is fine because they're trying to keep it mostly center. And then I do like kind of the all glass sort of front they have there at the top. But I do say the bottom screen certainly leaves something to be desired there, as it is smaller and just looks overall cheaper than what they have set up there for the top screen. The other system that they showed off is just a keyboard variant, and this reminds me very much of like the GPD Win, even the first one that had come out. So I think this design is, I mean, it feels old, but I mean, it's very usable, obviously, since these devices do technically function as full multi-purpose PCs, although I'm not really sure how many people buy these thinking, oh, I'm going to do my entire my essay, or I'm going to do word processing or Excel spreadsheets or surfing the web as much on it, since, I mean, for browsing the web, I'm sure a lot of people use their phones or apps that would allow them to do that. This, like, if I was going out there to pick up an Ayaneo Flip, I'd probably just be buying it in the sense of, oh, this works really well for handheld emulation. Some larger games like Grand Theft Auto 5 does function on it with decreased battery life, of course. And that's sort of how I would approach this. And I mean, I do like the overall look of this system, and I would love to see more and more of these handheld emulators show up with the idea of, oh, let's just try to be a 3DS replacement, but more modernized. And one thing about this sector right now is it's just feels very stale currently, and I think something like this could shake things up. So I'm curious if they go forward with this, as apparently the CEO at Ayaneo also referenced this concept and kind of just put it out there as, hey, would people like to see something like this? And it seems like something that I think is worth taking a chance on. Otherwise, I guess the next thing up will be something that looks exactly like one they've already done, but I guess with the next chip from AMD. Outside of that, though, the big thing they have to work out is battery life, and that's not just Ayaneo. That's like all these handheld PCs across the board, because they keep trying to just get better and better performance, but the battery itself that they're packing in is just not able to keep up with any of this stuff. So that's just kind of technology in general that needs to make the like a big leap forward before we can really push things much more. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below, with the concept of Ayaneo showing up with a new DS system. I mean, to me, the clamshell design is perfect for on the go, but having two screens that could play into 3DS emulation with a chip that's certainly equipped for it would definitely have my interest. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.